Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, filler, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. Hello, Dental 18 listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, let's talk about new patients. Let's talk about that experience. Let's talk about some things that I've seen in other practices that work really great, and let's give you guys some tangibles on new patients. So the reason I wanted to talk new patients is because often I go to other places and I judge them. You guys, I shouldn't judge, and I truly judge. What is this? I think I'm justifying right now, so we should just stop. I was going to say I truly judge to give you guys examples to help you with your practice. It could be that I just justified my judgment away, which is also not a great thing. So let's just call it what it is. Maybe I am justifying. Regardless, let me tell you guys an example. So I recently, you guys know I've had knee and hip pain. And so I recently found this doctor who is able to do a really unique procedure. And so I was pretty excited about it. They had a lot of kind of weird reviews. This guy does alternative medicine. Alternative medicine tends to be flagged with the board and different things like that. So I was aware of that. But of course, I'm on edge walking into this office. I read some really negative reviews online. I'm nervous. I'm also desperate to fix my knee and my hip. Okay. Well, let me just spin this for you real quick. Your dental patients are oftentimes walking into a dental practice. For us, it's not scary. It's our day-to-day, every single thing. For a patient coming into the practice, this could be downright terrifying for them. So I want you guys to think about that I was apprehensive. I'd seen some things online, and it was really funny. I was teaching a course one day, and I remember somebody raised their hand and said, Kiera, if we have a lot of great reviews, do we really need to respond to our negative reviews? Because honestly, does anybody even read those negative reviews? And I asked the audience, there's probably about 75 people in there. I said, how many of you read negative reviews? And everybody in the room, hand shot up. Bottom line is we all go for the negative reviews, or a lot of us do, because we want to see what's the worst thing that could happen to me. So just know your patients are most likely looking at your negative reviews more than they're looking at your positive ones, because positive, we have jaded experiences. We know people pay for reviews. We know their friends and family do reviews. So I know I'm very skeptical when I read reviews. I'm going to look for your worst thing. And so just know when your patients walk in, they may very well have done that same thing. Now, maybe if they were referred from a friend, which you guys, by the way, when I went to this doctor for my knee and my hip, I had been referred from a trusted friend. So that's why I went. Regardless of what the review said online, I still went because I had been recommended by somebody I trusted. Okay, so I walk into this building, brand new patient, super apprehensive. I have my paperwork filled out online, and I had some questions about it before I signed certain forms. They had some really terrifying forms. And I walk in and I see 3 girls sitting at the front desk. Nobody acknowledges that I walked in. Nobody. So there are 3 girls and they're just chatting. One girl is like sipping on a go-go squeeze. Another girl's got her back to me. Another girl walks in like she's Queen Diva. And I'm watching everything. So I sign my paperwork. I sign in on the clipboard. I sit for about 10 minutes, still have not been acknowledged. This is also where I'm going to be paying fee for service. I'm not going to be paying with insurance. And not that that matters. I think as a patient who's paying for that, I'm a little more on guard when I'm sitting there. So finally I stand up. There's a girl who walks close to the front desk. Nobody is sitting manning the front desk first and foremost. But there are 3 girls kind of in this big open area. And finally someone came up and I was like, hey, I'm a new patient. I've never been here. I wasn't even sure what I'm supposed to do. My appointment's like now. I don't really know the process of what you guys are doing. So she's like, oh, no problem. This girl who has her back to me, she'll get you taken care of. And I was like, okay. So this girl, she comes over, she takes my paperwork. And I said, hey, I had a couple questions on these. I just wanted to ask you guys before I sign. And what she did is she was she rushed me. You guys, I'm a bullet point person too. I don't like to spend a lot of time, but I was very apprehensive. I was super nervous. I didn't really know what was going on. I'd read some negative reviews and I was still there. So anyway, she's like, well, I don't know if we can see you without you signing these forms. And I thought, first and foremost, if somebody's willing to come after reading negative reviews, that's one thing. And for second, if they're willing to say, hey, I've just got some questions, instead of glossing over them and kind of bulldozing them, making sure we as dental offices take the time to address that they're even having questions. Now, I know that might be annoying and I know we're busy. Guess what? That person who's standing there is your paycheck, period. And I want you guys to remember that they are your paycheck. So we need to make sure we answer their questions in a very respectful manner. Also, remember, friend or foe, they're assessing you. Is your practice going to be a place that's friendly? Is your place a practice that they never want to come back to? And you have to remember, everything about them is heightened. They are taking in everything. Is that new patients in your practice? They are taking in every single thing that's going on. They're watching interactions. They have a heightened awareness. So, a lot of times we just think, laissez-faire, we're just going along. Reality is those people sitting there are watching everything like a hawk. They're assessing, they're judging, they're forming opinions. That's what's going on in the waiting room. So keep that in mind. So anyway, this girl, she takes me back. She's like, okay, well, let's get your blood pressure. And she brings me back. So she brought me back. You guys, I am a notorious low blood pressure. Like, I don't get nervous. I go to the doctor. I'm always like, oh gosh, ridiculously low. And so, it's 120 over 140. Excuse me, we're normally 120 over 80. 120 over 80. And you guys, normally I come in at like 110 over 75, 110 over 80. Like, I'm really, really notorious for just being a very constant lower, but not low blood pressure. Even when I'm nervous, I'm very low. Okay, so she comes in. She has not answered my question. She wants to take my blood pressure. She's telling me that they might not be able to see me. I feel as if I'm asking her questions and she is completely just bulldozing me. I was so nervous. You guys, my blood pressure in my entire life has never been over. I think the highest I've ever seen it is 125 over 80. And that's, you guys, it is never high. I came in at 145 over 110, I think is how high I was. And I told her, I was like, hey, so just so you know, I finally stopped her. I was like, hey, as you can see on my blood pressure, I'm super nervous and I feel you're not actually listening to me. Because my thought was, if I'm about to have a procedure done, they're going to be injecting in my knee and my hip. I want to make sure that I actually ask my questions because I only have one knee and one hip on my right side. That's all I've got. Think about your patients. They only have these teeth. They can't replace these teeth. So they might ask questions. And finally, I told this girl, I was like, I need to feel like I can ask you questions and you actually listen and answer my questions. Otherwise, I don't want to participate in this. And I was very direct because she just wouldn't listen. She had her own agenda and she refused to listen to what I was truly asking. And I said, my blood pressure has never been this high in my entire life. I'm literally sitting here trembling because you guys have really negative reviews online and I want to ask them. I said, but I'm here because I came off of a referral and I'm willing to give you guys an opportunity. I just need my questions answered. I think she was a little taken back that I actually was willing to say that. And she finally stopped and then she kind of expressed some things to me. And I said, I'm a straight shooter. You'll always know where I stand. And I think that me actually asking questions shows you that I truly do care. I'm not trying to be difficult. I really just want to make sure my questions are answered. And I was like, if you were to run my blood pressure again, I guarantee you it'll be low. And she's like, oh, it'll probably still be high because we've been chatting about this. No joke, you guys. I came in, I was 115 over 80. And she's like, wow. And I said, yeah. You just weren't listening. And it was really stressful for me to feel that you weren't listening. So anyway, I share that example with you because I want you to think of your new patient experience or any of your patient's experiences. And I want to call it the on-stage, off-stage. And this is a little rhetorical, it might be overused analogy, but think about Disneyland. When they are on the park premise, they are on stage. And then when they go off the park premise or behind the closed doors where no one can see them, that's when they can be off stage. And I want you to think about your practice and what you're doing on stage and off stage. So we're going to kind of break this down based on the story I just told you guys so you can really work on your practice new patient experience. So is everybody in the front desk? You guys, I've sat in the front desk and yes, we get hungry up there. And yes, we get bored sometimes up there. And yes, it feels like a long day. Patients are watching you. Eating food up there is not an on-stage appearance. You guys, I was really taken back. She's eating a go-go squeeze and I was like, oh, like how clean is this? Like, I get it. I've done that. But as a patient, I'm judging you really harshly because that's gross and I don't want to see this happening. Now, this is Kiera Dent. You guys might be thinking, Kiera, you're out of control. That's really not that big of a deal. For me, I expected to see those being super personable and professional. Maybe I wouldn't have minded had somebody actually addressed me when I first came in. Maybe I wouldn't have been as judgmental. I'm not sure. I will say though, think about I'm on stage. People can see me. What are they hearing? What are they seeing? I was listening to people, they were talking about their weekend, things like that. And me as a patient who had just been ignored, I was kind of like, guys, stop talking about your weekend. You have a patient standing in front of you. Apparently I don't matter. So just think about your practice. When you're on stage, be on stage. Make sure you're professional. Make sure you're presenting in the way that if you are a new patient, you'd want to be treated. Always, always, always have somebody sitting there to welcome them. And I mean welcome, not saying like, hey, what's your name? Sign in. Truly welcome. Like, hi, so glad you're here. Welcome. How's your day going today? I'm Kiera. I don't think I've met you. What's your name? That impression puts people at ease. Had somebody done that for me, I would have been like, oh, they're super nice here. This is going to be great. No problem. On stage, be on stage. I know we're busy, but remember, that patient standing in front of you is your paycheck. That person in front of you is paying for your practice to be there. That person in front of you, your job is to make a good impression on them. So regardless if you like them or don't like them, your job is to be on stage. We love everyone. We're welcoming. We're accommodating. We're super loving. It doesn't mean that we have to be walked on. We can still be firm with our policies. No problem. We are also just very accommodating when people come in because that's the impression we want to give. So I want you guys, and maybe you could even, I don't know, you could possibly even pop around a corner, doctors or office managers, and just kind of observe and watch what happens when a new patient walks into your practice. Just see. You might even like pull out your phone and like video what's going on so the front desk could watch that. I'm not saying to be spies. What I am saying though is sometimes when we see who we really are versus what we think we are, it can be a different perspective. Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, right now is the time to get your operations manual done. I just did a podcast, Operations Manual 2.0. Be sure to listen to that. And if you're like me, sometimes that task can feel daunting, which is why the coaching team, the Dental A Team coaching team, put together, you got it, Wednesday workshop for the next 4 weeks, starting on April 15th. We'll be running these at 12 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday workshop where we're getting your operations manual done. We're taking you through step by step to ensure within 4 weeks, you actually get that operations manual done with accountability, with traction, and with ease. So be sure to join us. It's free for all. So there is no reason you shouldn't join us and get that operations manual done. Wednesday workshops every Wednesday starting on April 15th, running through May 6th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Pop on over to thedentalateam.com/strategy to join our webinar series. Can't wait to see you guys there on Workshop Wednesday. So that's what I'd say is first and foremost, set a really strong positive experience. Secondly, you guys, when a patient is willing to ask questions, know it's because they care. Genuinely. People usually don't ask questions to be annoying. There are some people out there that maybe, yes, want to be that way. I have found that when people are willing to ask the question, it takes a lot of guts to ask questions. I remember being so scared in high school to ask questions, so terrified. And my mom would tell me, Kiera, get your hand up. And I was like, Mom, I'm so scared. What if I say something stupid? Or, all the fears and trepidation of looking incompetent in front of other people. So what I found is when people are actually willing to ask questions, we need to remember that this isn't normal for them. This is not a normal place for them. And although it's normal for us, just like that girl that I went and saw, it was normal every single day. We do the same thing. We give these injections. It's no big deal. I would suggest answer their questions and pretend that it's the first time you've heard that question and give them full attention. I think just that small little human piece, the human part of us, if we can really do that for our patients, they're going to feel that from us. So being on stage again, answering their questions, making sure they feel totally confident. People oftentimes are afraid because they don't feel confident. So it's coming from, it's that fear, and it's because they don't feel confident of what's happening. When people feel confident, they can still be nervous, but there's not that fear that's sitting inside of them. So really making sure you don't gloss over them or bulldoze them because we're on an agenda for a time schedule. I thought about that and I thought, gosh, how many times have I done that where I know we're behind schedule, so like stop asking me your questions, like this is super annoying. At the end of it, I realized I need to make sure that they feel confident, because if they feel confident, now this does not mean I have to have long-winded conversations. No, we can answer their question and we can explain it to them and make sure they feel totally confident. Also, instead of asking, do you have any other questions? Ask, what other questions do you have? I want to make sure you feel totally confident. You saying that phrase, doctors, hygienists, assistants, front office, hey, what questions do you have? I want to make sure you feel totally confident with this. That says to them, hey, open invitation. I want you confident. That's what's most important to me. By doing that, a lot of times people don't even have more questions because they're like, okay, I know if I do have questions, they'll answer it. I don't feel bulldozed. I don't feel that they're on a time crunch and too fast to answer my questions. And it's crazy because we often think this will slow us down. It will actually save us time long term, because then they're not going to have to ask questions. You guys, the next time I go to this place, I'm not going to have any questions because I asked all my questions. I feel very confident. I feel very secure. That's fine. So that's what I suggest you guys do, is make sure you're not bulldozing. And that was the term I used because I asked questions and she wasn't listening. She was responding to her own agenda. That's being on stage. Are you responding to your own agenda, or are you responding to what they're truly asking on their agenda? And that's part of the on stage, off stage. Make sure when you're on stage, even when you're in the break room, guys, make sure that you can't hear those conversations going on, because patients are listening. You have to realize they're uncomfortable. And when we're in a new setting that's uncomfortable for us, we often are way more hyper aware of what's going on around us. And we as a team aren't hyper aware because it's our normal habitat. This is where we always are. So we're not as aware of what we're saying or what we're causing. So I want you guys to really pay attention to that. So first, front desk. Make sure front desk is super welcoming. Use that phrase welcoming and practice this and role play it to ensure that when patients come in, regardless if they're new or existing, they feel welcomed. And what we're presenting at our front desk is on stage. I know it's tricky. I would suggest no food at the front desk. And you guys, I am a hypocrite because I did eat food at the front desk. I'm telling you, as I've grown up, as I'm more experienced, as I watch a lot of offices, make sure that we're polished and professional in the front desk, especially because that's our first and last impression of it. Even though, let's say there's 3 front desk ladies or men up front, even if I'm not the person talking to the patient, so I think, I can snag a quick cracker, guess what? That patient can still see you. And so I think it's really important that if we're up there, let's just make sure we stay on stage. Up next is making sure we're answering questions on their agenda, truly listening and responding, and then saying, what questions do you have? I want you to feel absolutely confident. That can really, really, really make a big impression. And then the third thing I wanted to leave you guys with this on-stage, off-stage, of course, listening for our conversations, listening for the conversations in the break room, making sure those things are truly off-stage, because we do need to have some time off-stage. It's really hard to always be on stage. So just make sure those doors are actually shut. The patients can't hear. We go in a space where we're not sharing our off-stage with our patients who are on stage. And then the last thing I would say is make sure that you guys, I know this sounds so silly, make sure you actually go read your reviews, your Google reviews. You should always be responding to them first and foremost. So your practice is not responding from the owner, and make sure it's personalized. Don't have a generic, oh, thanks so much for your reply. Thanks so much for your reply. Make sure it's actually personalized. That's going to help your Google ratings anyway. And it can be on Yelp. So all the platforms where people are leaving you reviews, make sure you're responding. But also make sure you know what your negative reviews are. Search your practice, search your doctor every so often. Make sure if there are any legal cases on you or there are negative reviews on you, you actually know them. You guys, patients research. We have the ability to research. They can check your license. They can check your practice. They can look for lawsuits that have happened. It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to find. And I want you guys to know it because when I went into this office, they had a couple lawsuits on them. You guys are probably wondering, why did I go to this guy? I wondered the same thing. Don't worry. His treatment actually did work. And all of his negative reviews were not about knee and hip procedures that he had done. They were actually on him kind of stepping outside of that zone and treating procedures that were not in his wheelhouse. But I knew all this. You guys, I read up on every single one of his lawsuits to know what was going on. I read to see who it was. I really did my research and my homework on him. Not all patients are going to do that, but some will. And so knowing what the internet says about your practice is super important because people are going to read that before you get there. Make sure you know what's going on and don't gloss over it. This lady's like, yes, we had one lawsuit. And I'm like, did you know you actually have like 2 more and they're pretty recent? And she's like, no, we don't. So I pulled up the website for her and she's like, oh, I didn't even know that was out there. So make sure, you guys again are probably judging my character right now. Why on earth would I go to this guy with lawsuits, you guys? Because he did PRF in my joints, and I was really excited to find a doctor who was willing to do that because I have such excruciating knee and hip pain to where it wakes me up in the middle of the night now. It's so incredibly painful. And I think it's from all the traveling I've done and just being cramped for so long that PRF, we use it in dental practices. I'm super, super pro that. And he is one of the few doctors who are willing to do it. So for me, yes, it was willing, and yes, his lawsuits were due to him doing things that did not involve PRF. I don't know what he decided to do. And it also came from a really trusted referral source. And he said, yes, he's got some lawsuits on him, just so you know. So it was nice that the person who referred me had already addressed that. However, the office was not aware of their internet appearance. So I'd say for you guys, make sure you check that. Read those negative reviews. So when patients do ask about them, because they are reading them, that you truly know the answers. That will just help you guys be more informed. And don't go on a negative rant. I would probably check maybe once a month. Make sure you know what's out there. Google your name, Google your doctor's name, Google the license number. You can check that by state. So you can check your doctor's license. Make sure you know that, especially the front office, because they're going to ask you those questions. You're the person that should be the information. So that's what I'd suggest for you guys for new patients. A couple different things, 3 different tips that I don't think I've shared with you. And I really love the idea of on-stage, off-stage. Doctor, I might suggest that you and the office manager, you write up what on-stage looks like for you. What do you want them to be? At Disneyland, they always use 2 fingers when they point. Whenever there's a piece of trash, they pick it up within 5 minutes. People are always smiling. You always smile. They never know if you have a bad day or not. We're always talking about professional things. Whatever on-stage looks like, and make sure your whole team knows this, because sometimes it's the expectation that was never written, and therefore it's missed because we never took the opportunity to actually truly talk about it. So those are my new patient on stage, off stage. Remember, first and foremost, welcome them into the practice. Second, make sure we're actually listening to their questions on their agenda, not our agenda. And third, make sure we know what negative reviews or internet things about us say to the public. That way we're prepared to answer those questions. All right, you guys, good luck with your new patients. If you have ideas or things that you're doing in your practice, please email me, hello@thedentaleteam.com. I look forward to hearing from you guys. And since it is a new patient thing, we always ask our new patients for reviews and to share and referral. So I'm asking you guys on the Dental Team, if this podcast has helped you in any way, shape, or form, please share it with other offices, other Facebook groups. Be sure to share episodes. That's the way that we're going to be able to help more offices become A-teams. I really think that this is how we can positively impact the world of dental. And if you feel so inclined, leave us the reviews on whatever platform you're listening to. Those reviews help us, so that way we pop up more when people search dental. So please, and make sure you guys do the same thing with your new patients. You should physically ask them, just like I did, and say hey, if this is a great experience, please leave us a Google review. That's how more patients like you can find us. Same thing with the podcast, guys. So please go leave us a Google review. Well, it's actually an iTunes review or a Spotify review. Leave us a review. Share this with your friends, your colleagues. Just share them a podcast. Maybe one that you think could help them. Put it in the Facebook groups, other groups. You guys are trolling in there more than we are. Our goal is to create great content, and then just to ask you guys if it's helped you at all, please share it. And as always, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time on the Dental Team Podcast.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental Team Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.